Says Uruguay is to sell recreational marijuana tax-free. So Uruguay isn't even looking to make any money off of their legalization. They just want to stop the drug trade. They actually want to stop the problem that's in the country. And they're the poorest small country in South America. And the president's super progressive, atheist, legalized gay marriage, legalized marijuana. He gives 90% of his presidential pay up, so that way he's making the same amount as the average Uruguayan. He's accepting the Guantanamo detainees, the Syrian refugees, and Mujica, Jose Pepe Mujica. So President Mujica is an incredible guy, incredible leader, which everybody could learn from, just like Evo Morales. Good salt of the earth, just humble farmers who made their way up into power and are making incredibly great decisions. Uruguay was against marijuana. Most Uruguayans were actually against the legalization of marijuana, but they had once they had got passed, they got they've accepted it, and so he actually went against the country when it comes to full-blown legalization, got it legalized, and then once it was legalized, there's a candidate that was the biggest opposition to the legalization of marijuana had lost his primary race, so therefore there is no opposition to it. So basically it's Uruguay's legalized, and it's going to be legalized forever. So he's taking a courageous stand. It's important, right? He says he may appear to be an eccentric old man, but it's a free choice. He says he doesn't feel poor. Poor people are those who only work to try to keep an expensive lifestyle and always want more and more. So he feels he's humbled, and so therefore, because he doesn't let his endless desires and materialism control him, he feels liberated. So before Mujica was elected president of Uruguay in 2009, the world may not have known a great deal about the South American nation that's home to 3.4 million people. Something I was actually impressed. Most of them speak Spanish, but there's like 90% white people is in Uruguay. 90% white. It just seemed odd to me. But they speak Spanish is what they speak. So actually his English is incredible, because I can understand it. It sounds like a good, well-educated man who can speak English. So, I'm sure he is a genius. If his English is that good, I'm sure his Latin would be even better, or his Spanish. His Latin. Who learns Latin? Okay, this has certainly changed in the past few years. That Mujica encouraged lawmakers to pass some of the most progressive legislation, not only in the country's history, but in the entire world. All over the world may know him as the first leader to outright legalize marijuana for recreational use, implementing a system, the first one in the world. Okay, what happened to like Portland, or Portugal, and the Netherlands, Amsterdam, right? That was known as Amsterdam. So, like, what happened to those countries? That wasn't full-blown legalization. They had, like, a lot more regulations to that. What's up with that? Okay, so I'm a little disappointed, and actually those might give us more. I mean, I don't know what's up with that. They're the first country, so they're the first nation. But Colorado, Washington has followed in behind. So Uruguay, Colorado, Washington, these are the pioneers. This is something that Kentucky should jump on board with. We would take over the eastern seaboard, the entire trade. You have New York, Florida, and Ohio, and Arkansas. So you got 4 other states. It's in the vicinity of Kentucky that's going to try to take our money. We should have done it 10 years ago. We should have done it when Gatewood said to have done it. We would have had plenty of money for roads, schools, hospitals. Kentucky would have been bumping. We'd have been making trillions of dollars 10 years ago. So we would have been, that we got smart kids right now, but a bunch of dumb, adults. And so now we would have had plenty of money and infrastructure, so these smart kids can actually use the infrastructure and get somewhere. But there's no infrastructure. There's no, there's nothing here. You have to create anything for yourself, if you want to make anything go. And so just earmarks. You just gotta kiss Frankfurt's ass and get some money from Frankfurt. Is that how it works? So all the world may know him as the first leader to outright legalize it, including a system which a gram costs no more than $1 to ensure that the money doesn't wind up in the hands of the drug lords. He led Uruguay to become the second nation in America, South America, after Argentina to legalize same-sex marriage. To pass legislation. I hear there's talk in Chile of legalizing marijuana now, so I'm sure there's talk everywhere. This is a big middle finger to the DEA and to the drug war that America has been perpetuating on the entire world. because of our empire, because we're an empire, right? 900 military bases, 150 countries. That's enough. All you need is one colony to call yourself an empire. So actually, England, United Kingdom is still an empire, which is ridiculous. So in May, Medea Benjamin, co-founder of the organization Code Pink and the Global Exchange, wrote 10 Reasons to Love Uruguay's President Jose Mujica. The list includes Mujica's push to legalize marijuana and same-sex marriage and to expand abortion rights. It also highlights Mujica's decisions to confront corporations such as the tobacco giant Philip Morris, work to reduce poverty and house Guantanamo detainees, per the request of Obama. So before, when the U.S. would actually assassinate these socialist presidents, now they're actually working with them. So that's a little bit better, right? I want to actually check out Hugo Chavez's land reform too, because he said he modeled his specifically on Abraham Lincoln's. But we're talking about the legalization of marijuana right now. So, Uruguay. No, Uruguay. That's stupid. Uruguay. No, Uruguay. You're not a Uruguay. Not a. And it's not even it's Uruguay. So at Uruguay with Mujica, it's like they don't want to pronounce the actual letter. It's like they try to not pronounce it. It's like, oh, there's an, oh no, we don't even say it. We try to say some other letter. It's a J. It looks like Mujica, right? But Mujica, all right, fine, Mujica. Why not be phonetic? You know, it could be the Mohicans, Mohican. He could be, you know, last of the Mohicans. So the decision by Uruguay lawmakers to legalize the possession and sale of marijuana could signal the beginning of the end for the increasingly unpopular U.S.-led war on drugs. Big shock. Uruguay's House of Deputies voted 96-50 in favor of a bill to legalize the production. So this is the elite aristocracy taking a hold of this issue, pushing it down the people's throat. 55% were against it. 30% of Uruguayans were for it. But now they're all on board because they've voted down the only politician that could have stopped this. Uruguay is a tiny nation of 3 million people, 3.4 million I've read. Mostly known for its feisty soccer and its juicy sirloin steak, but legislators in that country got to do something with potential global repercussions on Wednesday when they approved a marijuana law that could change how the rest of the world deals with drugs. The law resembles initiatives that were recently approved in so I'm not sure actually who did it, if Washington or Colorado. See, we could have been, Kentucky could have been part of this conversation. Instead of being 20 years behind things, we could be 20 years in front of things. And just blaming on ignorance. So, you know, we're just impetuous. We're just, you know, we do this, we do that, what the hell? You know, it's the right thing to do, you just get it done. So, you know, just like our Civil Rights Act, boom, get it done. Common Core, boom, get it done. Obamacare, there it is, implemented. Now let's implement some legalization of marijuana programs and start licensing them. You know, let's pass out everybody that's in the state of Kentucky that owns land, everybody gets, you know, 100 pounds per acre. Raise how much ever you want. You're unlimited. You're allowed to raise it unlimitedly. Okay? You don't want people overdosing, so educate people, tell people about the facts. You want people to, if they're raising cookies, you want to talk about how much is actually in them, so that way people aren't getting blindsided. And because it takes longer for the effects of a cookie or edible to kick in, people could take too much and then not feel it, and then it just kicks their ass an hour or two later on. Like it did to Maureen Dowd, who would rather drink alcohol and get, you know, sloshed instead of getting a small high, because she's no good at it. She don't know what she's doing. So we know we're embarking on a cutting-edge experiment. The other foot of the U.S. is stomping on Uruguay. Many persons profit off the $25,000 plus a year it costs to keep these monetized okay, so it costs money, right? So you'd save $60 million was saved immediately in Washington or Colorado because of these so-called marijuana scare stories. Don't say much about legalization. So there's a couple scare stories that are out here. Crime has actually dropped in Colorado, so don't let any of these stories scare you. One of the stories is that Richard Kirk, who killed his wife after possibly ingesting marijuana prescription pain pills. So he mixed pain pills with marijuana. So you can't put that on just the marijuana, right? It's a combination. And one could have been counteracting, could have been like THC and CBD, right? One's counteracting, saying, no, you gotta, you know, you gotta heal. You can't make it worse, you gotta heal. Some reporting that actually omitted the pills. The interaction of the two could have contributed to the incident, leaving readers with the impression that consuming a marijuana candy bar alone may have caused the psychotic episode that led Kurt to retrieve a gun and shoot his wife. So, hungry, happy, sleepy, those are the effects. It also lowers inhibitions. So if Kirk had these, inhibitions, inhibitions, whatever the opposite of inhibitions are, if he had these inhibitions beforehand, then it could have, close a gate or a door and allow him to go on. It's intoxication, right? So it lowers inhibitions. Excuse me. So, police took a blood test, but the results may not reveal until Kirk's case go to court. So we won't know for a while what role drugs may have played. These are all multi-determined events. We know that because they're rare. If they were simply determined, they'd be happening more often, said Keith Humphreys, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral medicine at the Stanford University School of Medicine. In the aggregate, Americans use marijuana billions of times a year, and there's very few stories like this. If marijuana had this effect in the prevalent fashion, these things would have been happening for years and years and years. Also prevalent has been the sad story of Levi Thamba Ponji, 19-year-old college student in Wyoming who come to Colorado, leaped off a hotel balcony after eating a marijuana cookie that, according to police documents, contained 6.5 servings of THC, the compound in marijuana that leads to the intoxication. The coroner concluded that marijuana intoxication was a significant contributing factor in Ponji's death. These are not typical experiences. It's highly unusual for people without steady use and without a tendency towards psychosis to become psychotic from using marijuana, though he could not comment on any specific incident. There's the question, of course, of overuse. New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd wrote Tuesday of a trip to Colorado where she had a bad experience after eating a marijuana-laced candy bar. Left her curled up in a hallucinatory state for the next 8 hours. Kirk and Ponzi are both mentioned in the column, yet the risk of marijuana intoxication pale in comparison to the number of deaths attributed to alcohol, which Dowd describes as her own drug of choice. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there are around 88,000 deaths related to alcohol overuse every year, about 75,000 of which are the result of falls. Kleiman estimates that alcohol-related falls may account for as many as 2 deaths per week in Colorado alone. So that's interesting. Alcohol kills more people, right? Actually, ants kill more people than marijuana. Ants kill 30 people per year, and marijuana kills nobody. You could say, that, I don't know, it could be a contributing factor, but to say that they had caused it, I think you're out of line. I think it's ridiculous that it caused him to shoot his wife or that caused that dude to kill himself. That's ridiculous. No, absolutely not. The psychosis or the inclination for suicide or to hurt others was already in those two gentlemen beforehand, and so marijuana just, I guess pushed them to do something that they wanted to do to begin with. So I don't know, it's a contributing factor, but to say that that is the substance that did it, no, I don't believe that. Because if the person had been drunk or just on the pain pills, are you telling me that wouldn't have happened? In fact, it could have just been the pain pills that made it happen. So until something is more specific about saying, like, because of A, B, it happened. You don't want it to happen. You want people to be educated about it, but it doesn't do that. Those are not the effects of marijuana. Those are anomalies, and that's it. And that's all there is to that. So, I mean, if someone is drunk and they beat up their wife, is it the alcohol? The alcohol is a contributing factor to the thing, but for some reason that man doesn't like his wife because he keeps on beating her up. So that's already there. The alcohol pushes him to do something that he wants to do anyways, and probably that's the reason for his drinking, or at least it becomes the reason for his drinking, right? He's a tippler. So Maureen Dowd isn't the only idiot in the world, right? So people need to say how much they're actually eating and how much is actually in it. So that's something that people need to understand when it comes to the legalization of marijuana. To say, have a little labeling, food labels. Ralph Nader was big in not just seatbelts, but also food labels. So anytime you can read the ingredients and how much percentage of vitamin A and vitamin C and all the different vitamins that each packaged food or fast food anywhere, those food labels are everywhere. So we get to know the ingredients and we get to know what percentage that actually helps our nutritional diet. Thanks for Ralph Nader's work. But we should have those exact same food labels on any cookies or things that are out there that's putting out to market. So it's also an all-cash business. I was reading another article about how the banks are afraid of backing or getting involved with something that the federal government says is illegal. But there's been like co-ops, and they've been trying to get some banking and financial institutions to back these endeavors. And I think the more that the banks are actually involved, which I think, the banks control everything anyway, so just have a bank safe haven like Switzerland. So Kentucky should be like Switzerland and Portugal.